Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And as teased, as promised, we have a brand new expert, somebody that was featured, somebody that I was so thrilled by, passionate by, just awesome. He made it in the book. I evaluated hundreds of people. He is in this book, chapter 14. If you haven't got the book, get the book, 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires. Mr. Jason Pritchard is to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Zuber. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. So we've obviously had you on the show many, many times, which I always appreciate. But now you've agreed. I think we've agreed to every other Sunday to add you as an expert. So thank you very much for that. I know the audience will love it.
No, I love your community, man, and I'm excited to give back and add some value to them. So yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to this time we got together on Sundays, man. It should be cool.
Yeah, and also just so you know, folks, what we're going to do is we're going to be adding a lot more property walkthroughs. I have a playlist called Walkthroughs. It's something I had done a lot. I haven't done really a deal in a year, but Jason is always moving and grooving. He's going to create content for us so you can look through more walkthrough videos. Give us feedback. Let us know what you want to hear. He is always giving back. So Jason, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. I'd love to tailor it to your guys' community. So yeah, feedback is great for me. I'd love to hear what you guys want to see, if it's deal structure or calculating rehab costs or any of the above. Just drop it in the comments or reach out to one of us and let us know, and we'll continue to improve it and make it the best for you guys.
Awesome. So we got 3 topics today, like I do with all my experts. One is going to be about your chapter in the book. I've got to ask you some questions. I got to tell you, your chapter has gotten the most feedback that I've received. So we're going to ask you some of those questions. Number 2, we're going to talk about a post that you have on Instagram. You have an amazing Instagram page that has me, A, challenging myself, B, often smiling and just thrilled with what's going on. So if you don't follow Jason Pritchard, you are missing out. What is your Instagram page so people can go to it right now?
Just my first and last name, Jason Pritchard, Pritchard. Instagram and Facebook, you'll get both content on there, man. So yeah, either one of those, feel free to reach out to me on there.
And then video 3, we're going to talk to the real estate agents in the room, the folks that, if you are a real estate agent, video 3 is going to be for you. If you know real estate agents, please forward video 3 to them, because it is going to be hopefully life-changing for them. But Jason, you ready for video 1?
I am ready. Let's do it.
All right. So video 1, obviously is going to be about chapter 14 in this amazing book. And kind of the biggest question I get from folks is, oh my God, did you read about the guy in 14? I can't believe he did that. Obviously, you know what I'm referring to. But when you hear something like that, or you hear anybody that hears your story, just like, I couldn't do that. Are you freaking nuts? What do you think?
It's definitely true. And it's something that Jennifer, my wife, and I have conversations where we almost kind of pinch ourselves and can you believe that, this has happened in the last 7 years? And it makes so much sense because I feel our story resonates with a lot of people, Zuber, because there's so many people in that similar situation, right? They're
sure.
like us. They got stuck in the corporate rat race at some point and they bought into this idea of like, let's just go to school and work really hard. And 30, 40 years later, we get to enjoy our lives. And, we were neck deep in that for, 15, 16 years. And we had developed a lot of bad personal financial habits and just a lot of the things, keeping up with the Joneses and all the credit card debt and the mortgages and the car payments and all the things that people accumulate when you're kind of stuck in that path. And for us, it took something extreme. It really did take something extreme to kind of jar us out of this reality that we had built for ourselves for those 15 years. And so I think, at a surface level, looking at it outside in, yes, it was. But, for some of you, it doesn't necessarily need to go to the extreme that we went, but it may take something to kind of get you out of this monotony that you're stuck in.
Yeah. So again, you've got to get the book. You got to read chapter 14. In fact, if I were you, I might skip to chapter 14. I'll summarize it here for you. Jason, correct me if anything is wrong or maybe. Basically, you are by all outside measures. How old were you kind of before you left the rat race?
32, 33.
Yeah. So by all measures, you are deemed successful. You have climbed the corporate ladder to at least middle rung. You're managing people.
Yep.
You're growing, making 6 figures. But there's a couple of things about your story. One is you were not happy. You really, of all the stories, even that very first interview we did, you could tell that you were not happy at that moment, right?
I was miserable. Not unhappy is
Yeah.
probably too soft of a word. I was miserable. And I can remember,
Miserable.
especially towards the tail end. And I went through this cycle at both of the jobs that I was at. I had worked 7-8 years at my first company, and then I did the same exact cycle. And it was kind of that 6-7 year mark where I just felt this feeling of like, what is going on? Like, this can't be the rest of my life. Exactly. I could look around and see my future and some of the older employees that I was working with. And I basically it dawned on me that it was like, well,
I don't want that.
This is what my life is going to be like. And I just knew that I had the potential in me to do more. And I feel like so many people have that same feeling and that desire in them. They know that they were put here on this earth to do more than what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they just don't either have the tools, the resources, the support, the mindset, all of these things that are required to kind of get out of there. And, they just feel themselves stuck. And so I think that's why stories like ours resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah. And this is why I was so happy you agreed to be an expert, because so my story starts at 30, yours was at 32, kind of this pivotal moment. And it's funny because we both have the same moment in time. You choose what I'll call burn the bridge, right? You take a little bit of time, you set up your finances, so you have 6 months that you can give this a true, honest effort. You get complete buy-in from your wife, so it is a team doing this. So you set this up, but you eject. You leave the rat race, right? Go all in. I get to a similar point where I'm like, I just got my teeth kicked in. I just lost 80%. I thought I had it figured out. I too, it's so funny. I looked up my corporate chain 2 levels up, which I thought was the freaking goal, right? I'm now 30 years old. I always wanted that job, right? And I look at them going, they're fat. They're on their 3rd marriage. They're addicted to something. It may be alcohol. It may be something illegal. I'm like, I don't want any of that.
Yep.
So I go conservative, right? I start whacking expenses, living on less, and just, kind of building one rental at a time. You go, no. And that's really, I call that, like, I'm an employee, maybe an investor. You're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
At least that's how I see it.
That's a good way to put it. And I think the most important takeaway for the people listening is that there's no right or wrong answer, right? I think it starts with self-awareness. Self-awareness is the number one thing. And you have to realize what type of person you are. And looking back, knowing the type of person that I am, I think I had to operate without a safety net.
Totally agree.
In order to push through so many of the challenges that came up at the beginning, because there were so many times, countless times, where I was just ready to pull the plug and just go back and crawl back and beg for my job back, because I just felt like this isn't working, and especially when we're conditioned to getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. And I was working every day, dude. Like, I was putting in full days every day. And it was damn near a year before I ever saw any money from any of the work that I did. And that took a little while for me to wrap my head around. But for most people, it's just that first deal. Once you can get to deal number 1, and you've got to get to that proof of concept first.
Yeah.
You've got to come up with a plan, whether it's kind of easing back from the job and kind of letting that run in the background on autopilot, and then doing this in all your spare time, or doing it like me and just saying, we're going to burn the boats, and, there's no plan B, this has to work over my dead body. There's the only way it's going to work is if I die. So I feel like just be aware of what is going to be conducive to you being successful first, and go with that route. You know what I mean? And
you definitely got to know yourself. The other thing that was very similar in both our stories is we had complete support from our significant others, right? You can't quit your job and go into credit card debt and then mortgage your house without Jen's support. I can't whack our expenses without Olivia's support, right? It's just, there is no question that both of us were very fortunate to have significant others that were like, and they were in 100%, right? If Olivia was in 99%, we don't survive the Norris Drive story. We blow up at the first house.
Yeah.
So again, I would say, Jen, your better half or other half.
You've always, and I think I picked this up from you. I knew that it was important, but I remember reading your first book, and there was a chapter about getting buy-in from your spouse, right?
Yes.
And I think it resonated with me because I always knew that Jen really supported me, but I didn't realize even back then how important it was. And I get a lot of questions from people now, as
me too.
As my reach starts to get out and I get a little bit more influence, I see people that hear my story and they're like, wow, but I got to talk to my spouse. I'm not sure if they're 100% on board. And I think the best advice that I can give for the people that are maybe in that marriage and you have that entrepreneurial mindset and the spouse is the one that's going to be supporting you, I think you have to make sure you have all your ducks in a row and you are over prepared before you even bring up the conversation of, hey, should I quit my job? Or, hey, you know what I mean? Like blah, blah, blah. You have to really have a plan and not have it be some crackpot idea that, you just listen to one episode on YouTube and now all of a sudden I'm ready to, throw away everything that I've worked for. And I think that will help your spouse get on board sooner, or at least believe in you a little bit more at the beginning. And then you've got to get to proof of concept as fast as possible, because it was a eye-opening moment for both of us when that first deal closed and we brought in a check for, it was like 50 grand or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And I had never, ever in my life, had a check that size before ever. And so to deposit that much money into our bank account was like an eye-opening moment, right? And every time that happens, your spouse slowly but surely will come on board a little bit more. And then it's just like, wow, this is real. There was a point a couple years in where it's like, this is real. I didn't get lucky 20 times in a row. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
like this is a real thing. And now
seven.
Yeah, exactly, man. But you have to, for the entrepreneur in the relationship, you have to prove yourself too. I think it'd be ridiculous to have your spouse just co-sign on an idea that says, like what we did, let's take a second mortgage on our house. Let me cash in my 401k. Let me max out all of our credit cards, all our life savings, and then just push all those chips in the middle. That does not sound like a great plan unless you have really, really thought everything out.
This is exactly what I was hoping for episode 1, because again, the book, the chapter, it does sound like, dude, this guy put all his money. He not only went all in, he wasn't playing poker or blackjack. He was at the roulette wheel and he picked a number, right? That's what it feels like. Yeah. You got a 1 in 36 or whatever the chances are. That's what it kind of feels like that's what it feels like to the people that are my ilk, right? Slower, one rental at a time. The entrepreneurs are like, damn right, 7, go get it.
Yep.
But talk about the plan, right? Because again, you just said it was vital. I mean, how long were you putting these pieces together? How long were you were putting it out there so Jen could sort of get the buy-in? It wasn't a one-call close, I'm guessing.
No, it was a lot. Jen knew that I was unhappy. We had a lot of talks about me being unhappy, right? And so that conversation naturally leads to, well, what do you want to do? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you can't just be miserable for the rest of your life. So what is it?
That would suck.
And so I knew that I had always been drawn to real estate, even at a young age. And I was very fortunate that she believed in me and supported me more in this than I actually believed in myself. She was like, hey, I think you could do it. We talked about me becoming an agent. We talked about investing. We just kind of talked about all of these different things. And that's how it started for us. It wasn't like, hey, let me sit you down in front of our dry erase board and let me pencil out like our plan, right? It was very much just a casual conversation that we just started growing and growing. And then there was a lot of self-education that happened very early on, right? I went all in on podcasts and YouTube University and just learning all of the jargon, everything like that. And I started evaluating deals and talking about those things and realizing that I wasn't getting traction. And I knew very early on that we needed to learn how to find properties that we could buy directly from the sellers at discount. And honestly, that was my saving grace, Zuber. Like that was the thing that at least I looked at it and I said, and this sounds ridiculous now, but honestly, guys, this is how little I knew at the beginning, right? And so it should show as proof that if I can figure this out, with this being my starting point, any of you guys can do it. I would go on Zillow and say, if Zillow says this house is worth $150,000, I can't pay more than $75,000 for the house, right? And I just wouldn't do it. And so I knew that if I could get it for around half of what the property was worth, it could compensate for all the things that I didn't know. My lack of construction background, my lack of real estate experience, my lack of all these things. I would run the deal by, I didn't have a huge network of people that I knew and trusted, but I had a few people that were in the business and I would bounce it off them. And I'd just be like, listen, here's the numbers on this. And, a couple of those people co-signed on it. And I was like, okay, let's just go. You know what I mean? Like worst case scenario, right? Like I can always just go get my job back. Let's just try this one. It feels safe. You know what I mean? And we'll go from there. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, also, let's also have a celebration. You did a Bigger Pockets episode, which is big time here in the last week or so. Tell people what they will get out of that Bigger Pockets episode.
I think it's going to be a lot of just my story, the background, kind of how we started, how the business grew, what the business is doing now. And it was very much a full circle moment for me because the Bigger Pockets podcast was such a huge part of that initial kind of learning experience for me, right? Like I devoured so many episodes from that. And I think so many people get their start there, right? Like the podcast, the YouTube channel, the forum, you know, there's all these resources. It's really like probably the biggest online community for real estate investors or for one of them. Yeah. Right. And so to be able to be invited onto the show was just a really cool moment for us because Jen has listened to, I don't know how many Bigger podcasts, like just driving in the car. We would go on these long road trips. It's 3 hours straight of real estate podcasts. And a lot of them was all Bigger Pockets. So, you know, it was a very cool moment for us for me to get invited onto the show.
I forgot what show number. What show number?
Oh God, that's a good question. It's the one that just got released. It's May 19th or 20th right now. And so I think it's like 600 or something like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And again, folks, we're going to be lucky enough to have Jason back every other Sunday to talk about amazing stuff. He has invested in one rental at a time community. He's going to do amazing things. Let us know questions below that you would love to ask Jason. I will put a list together and ask him in a couple of weeks. Jason, one more time, where can people find you?
Social media right now is going to be the best place. I'd say Instagram or Facebook. Just type my name in there. Feel free to reach out. I respond to all my DMs. So if you have questions or if I can be a resource for you guys, especially about stuff like this, I love talking to people that are in this situation. That is one of the things that fills my cup up more than anything else, right? Like being able to positively impact people that were dealing with a lot of the same struggles that Jennifer and I were at the beginning. And even if we have just a very, very small impact on their lives, that makes me feel really good, man. So I'm happy to help anybody that's watching the show with stuff like that.
Yeah. Again, that's addictive, right? Because
it is.
That's one of the reasons I have this entire YouTube channel and is that because I got to tell, I mean, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I get more of a jolt of endorphins from helping somebody than closing another deal.
I've forgotten half the deals that we've done, Zuber. Exactly. And I was talking to my team about this. Like I've forgotten about probably more than half, but I will never forget. I get so many different, and it's so crazy how powerful YouTube and social media in general and the internet is, right? Like I get messages from people that I maybe not even have had direct contact with. And they've just like, hey, I've saw some of your content on your Instagram and I've seen some of your episodes on Zuber's channel or on these other podcasts or whatever. And I bought my first rental and a lot of it had to do with you. It's just such an amazing feeling. It's way better than money or deals or business or anything like that, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, thank you very much for episode 1. I look forward to episode number 2. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, guys.